Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Jason Finkelstein. He is the CMO of Gladley. Gladley is a customer service software helping the world's most loved brands deliver highly personalized customer service at scale. Gladly is the only customer service software built around people, not tickets. They have 175 employees headquartered in San Francisco, founded in 2014. Jason is a five-time CMO with experience at high-growth startups and both private and public SaaS businesses, including Adroll, Tratify, AVG Technologies, and Location Labs. He's also a co-founder of Numa and serves as a go-to market advisor for several B2B SaaS businesses. Today, we are talking about building modern customer support teams in the age of AI and the future of customer experience. This episode is sponsored by Gladly. Head over to gladly.com to check them out. Jason, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. It's so nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah, the last time I saw you, I was at your event in New Orleans, and you were so nice because I had worst nightmare situation of losing my voice. Don't even know what happened, but that was such a cool event. How did that event go for you last year?
It was pretty amazing. That was our first reboot of that event called Gladly Connect Live post COVID. We were able to, I think we were expecting 200. We had maybe closer to 220 people in person in New Orleans. And I think we maybe had somewhere between 300 and 400 virtually. So a lot of folks who dialed in virtually. Yeah, it was a great success to gather a bunch of customers and community members, non-customers who are CX enthusiasts, CX practitioners, all together in one place, sort of just random collisions in the hallway and in rooms. It was really phenomenal.
Yeah, it's so nice. It's so hard to get people out of the house these days. So you had such a great group, so many cool brands. So for my audience that don't know Gladly, could you just give us the high level pitch of what Gladly is and how you help brands?
Sure. So Gladly is a customer service platform, and we're the only one in the market. Well, so we sell to retail commerce brands largely, so B2C. And, our customers we count the world's most loved brands among our customers, right? So Nordstrom, Crate and Barrel, REI, Warby Parker, Ulta Beauty, et cetera. And we're the only customer service platform in the world that is built, architected around people and not tickets. That is to say, the only customer service platform where the software and the interface actually treats customer conversations with brands as part of sort of a single lifelong relationship that has context, that has memory, that's oriented around the customer herself and not the actual sort of problem of the day, which typically manifests in other platforms as like a ticket. And so we do that to truly deliver on the promise of being customer centric and to help brands, those loved brands that I just described, connect more deeply with customers to build greater customer loyalty, which is realized as things like when customers love you, they purchase more frequently, they have higher average order value, they resist competitive offers more, and they're more likely to tell other people about the great experience with the brand. Great customer experience doesn't have to be limited to just I love this product, but I had a great experience with the brand, including customer service. And so that's what we deliver for our customers, for our brands.
So the difference between a brand, a software company that really focuses on the person versus the ticket, is that just more of a personalized view for the contact center? Like, could you just paint the vision or the picture for us?
Yeah, so think about it through the lens of like how customers interact, or how humans interact with each other today. The simple sort of anecdote I'll give you is, let's imagine that you and I are having lunch together. We're having a voice conversation. We say, "Hey Blake, let's go get lunch." Okay, then I go on to Open Table and I send you an email that has the invite to lunch. And then when we're meeting at the restaurant, I text you, "Hey, I'm running a couple minutes late. I'm parking, whatever." Consumers don't think about what channel that they use to communicate. I'm just like, I'm talking to Blake. Now I've had a voice conversation with you. I've had an email exchange with you. I've had a text message exchange with you. And with each of those, you have context. It's not like you get that Open Table reservation and you're like, what is this? Like, who is this person, and why are they sending me a reservation? Or like, Jason is texting me when he's parking. Like, what? Why am I even having this conversation? So consumers blend these channels together. Humans blend these channels together. And because their expectation around how they communicate with other people has elevated over time, so is their expectation around how they communicate and interact with brands. Why, when you call or email or message a brand, are they always like, who is this? They should know who you are. Why are they necessarily asking, why are you calling me? If they have memory of the interaction that you've had with them, it's much easier for them to say, hey, Blake, I know that you just ordered this. Is everything okay with your order? Like, did it arrive? By the way, I can just tell you, if you're calling about the delivery, it's like, it's en route and here's where it is. And so you can if you have that information in front of you, you can anticipate things for customers. And so that manifests in Gladly as not a channel-based view of the interaction with the customer, an email ticket, a voice ticket, which, by the way, in other systems you have to switch between screens on. But in Gladly, it is a customer-centric view that has this single lifelong conversation where the channels are sort of threaded together in one chronological conversation. Much like an iMessage interface, like you would interact with any other sort of person, any other friend or family member.
Yeah. I mean, this just seems very obvious to me that this would be an amazing thing for any brand to have. Just even thinking about shopping experiences, I was at Nordstrom the other day and I just hopped in. It was really happenstance. And I met a sales lady named Sandy. And as my husband sat there playing games on his phone, I perused the activewear and found some they didn't have everything in my size. So Sandy sent me a text which had something she had styled for me. So as a salesperson, I knew she still would get credit, but I could get it online because they didn't have my size in this green bomber
Yep.
jacket I wanted. And so these are the technologies that make shopping more of an experience, and even a store less of a place where a transaction happens and more just about the experience. Like Warby Parker is a great example that your
Yep. They're a
customer is
customer.
Warby
Yep.
Parker. And when you go into the store, it feels more like a gallery where you try on the glasses. It doesn't really feel like, oh, I'm here to pick up inventory that's in the back.
Yeah, that's spot on. And actually, I would say it's now feels so intuitive because people have been doing this for years, right? All of those channels have existed for years. But it turns out when sort of legacy systems were built, all of these channels didn't exist, right? First, it was voice. That's how you sort of contacted customer support. And then came email, and then came messaging. And many of these other platforms, these customer service platforms, were built before there was a need for all of these. So architecting those systems around a ticket made sense because the whole of the customer relationship was through the phone call, was through the voice conversation. But that's not the case anymore. And Gladly has the benefit, I suppose, of starting later. It's almost like a last mover advantage, not a first mover advantage, which a lot of different software businesses benefit from, seeing a lot of the mistakes that happen in the market and benefiting from all of the change that sort of the users of the software expect over time. So yeah, we've definitely benefited from that. And that's one of the biggest ways that we distinguish ourselves.
So people keep asking me about AI. So I'll ask you, like, what are the AI aspects of the software experience that you sell? Where can we see the AI?
So I love this question because it's so new and it's also so nuanced when you sort of start to unpack the layers of it. So remember, a customer service interaction is between the end consumer and a brand. And so as a consumer, you've been able to see a level of automation for some time, right? For years and years, there's a handful of companies and platforms that have incorporated this in a way that we call sort of scripted automation. Not quite AI yet. That's sort of now arrived in the last year. But before that, it was scripted automation. And you can think of that as like your sort of interaction with a chatbot, a consumer's interaction with a chatbot, which a typical question is like, where is my order? Right. And it asks you for some information and gives you sort of a set of menu options. And it's like a decision tree, right? If this, then that. If the person asks this and we can identify what it is, then send them down this series of questions. And that sort of scripted automation has been around for a long time. And that is consumer facing scripted automation, right? The end consumer actually interacts with the brand and it's very well controlled. But at the moment you sort of ask it sort of a non-common question, it will sort of hand you over to an agent, which is fine. Now, more recently, AI, sort of with the onset of ChatGPT and Azure and Bard and all these other, it's able to accommodate in a end consumer facing way lots of different types of interactions. You can imagine a simple streamlined interaction, which is, hey, I dropped ketchup on my shoes and how do I clean them? And then the AI is able to go to the knowledge base and share information back around how to clean your shoes. But humans are quirky, right? And they don't always ask questions in traditional ways. So imagine a different version of that question. Hey, I'm going to a movie tonight and I dropped ketchup on my shoes and I need to clean my shoes in the next couple hours before I go to this movie, right? Scripted automation would not be able to handle that question. Generative AI, it turns out, can actually handle that sort of question, realize that you're asking about how to clean your shoes, get the answer, and then we'll do things like say, what movie are you going to, by the way, just like a human agent would. So there's pretty amazing stuff happening that on the consumer facing side of automation, both scripted and generative. Also, it's happening on the agent side, right? So you could imagine a customer service agent who is interacting themselves with an end consumer and needing to sort of understand what past conversations have been, anything from voice to email to SMS to anything like that, where AI can quickly summarize past interactions and give you information that you as an agent need much more quickly. Or it can propose responses to you, and then you can sort of look at them and decide whether or not you want to refine it or change it or whatever. But it can give you sort of more relevant information more quickly. And then even another use case is actually if the agent writes something and wants AI to rewrite it in sort of the brand voice and tone, or to sort of clean up a bunch of spelling errors, we can do that sort of thing as well. And so you can start to imagine all manner of use cases that are agent facing that are really about helping them interact with the end consumer in a much more personalized way that gets them the information that they need faster and in a much more personalized way where you sort of more deeply, that agent is able to more deeply connect. So there's consumer facing AI, there's agent facing AI, there's scripted and generative. And so that, if you sort of imagine that as a 2x2 matrix, that there's sort of all manner of use cases across all four of those quadrants.
What are some of the common questions that your customers ask you about using generative AI, whether that's agent assist or the customer facing?
So this actually tilts into some of the sort of fascinating like market questions that are coming up, which is, I promise I'll get to your question in a second, Blake, but it's sort of about setting the context here. Again, and you can imagine the interaction between a consumer and a brand as a conversation, two-way conversation. And there's sort of a mix of those conversations. We talk about it as sort of like AI or automated or like human, but in actuality, they're a blend, right? It can start with AI and then, end up being run by a human. And so it's an oversimplification to think of it this way, but think of it as a conversation mix between AI-led, human-led, and sort of automation or AI-led. Maybe a year to 18 months ago, that sort of mix was more 90% human-led, 10% automation or AI-led before generative AI was even in the market. Today, that's closer, again, it's sort of across our north of 300 customers. Maybe that's more like 80-20 or 75-25. So the market is shifting, right, including more and more AI automation capabilities in those conversations. In 18 months, that could look more like 50-50, which is pretty crazy to think about. And so to your question to me, what a lot of brands are wondering is, what should that conversation mix be? Like how much should I be incorporating AI and automation? Where should I be doing it? Should it be consumer facing? Should it be agent facing? Where do I get the most value in my business? Is it about, am I prioritizing sort of doing more with less, right? Helping my agents be more efficient, serving a greater number of customers with the same number of agents combined with automation and AI. And it hasn't gone there yet, but I do think it will. And that is, can I cut costs? Can I either not scale my team and keep growing my business, or am I able to sort of change the roles of people on the team to something that's not needed? Because if AI becomes able to handle more than just those transactional use cases and the more sort of nuanced ones and do it in a personalized way, It could change the role of an agent entirely, especially when you fast forward to, maybe call it 3+ years out, where the conversation mix will be very, very different. So a lot of the questions are around consumer agent. How do I use AI? What's the business value of using that AI, and which things am I going to introduce first? And what are the business risks, right? Do I have to worry about, AI sort of going off the rails and saying something to my customer where I don't, where I have to sort of be mindful of that and sort of control that with policies or processes.
Jason, could you just talk more about the buyer, your buyer? Like, is it the head of customer experience? Is it a CMO like yourself that now manages the contact
Yep.
center? Because we know in customer experience, there's no one size fits all. But I'm just interested because, they're buying from you. Who is your buyer? What are their mandates?
It's generally a buying committee. And so the buying committee is a mix between like a CX leader or customer service leader. In some cases, that's a C-level person or a VP or a director at some companies. But of course, if you're focused on retail, there is a digital strategy person or a head of omni-channel, right? Which typically in retail has been sort of a marketing role, but because it's customer experience blends from sort of marketing into customer service. So we definitely in retail have sort of a digital strategy person or sort of omni-channel person or e-com person in the mix. Then of course you have ops and IT and almost always like a finance person. They want to sort of understand the business value and the math behind it. So those are sort of the usual suspects in the buying committee. But if you go to bigger and bigger companies, it could be upwards of 8 to 10 different sort of functional areas that are connected to the buying process. So it just, I think, which illustrates to me, Blake, how customer experience spans beyond just the this contact center, right? It's not limited to that anymore. It's pretty company wide and brand wide for commerce brands.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And I'm so glad you mentioned the CFO or the math finance person because increasingly that is a really important topic is we all have to be versed in the business value of these softwares and how do we show the business case. Is there any interesting insights that you've gleaned from working with CFOs of your customers, things that they want to hear that our contact center leaders and customer experience leaders, they need to understand that language?
So there's just pure dollars, like discretionary dollars, and then there's time, right? And the most expensive thing for businesses is not like their marketing budget necessarily. It's the people, the salaries that they have to pay, or the hourly rates that they have to pay for different types of workers. And so we get a handful of questions around the idea of consolidation, right? Oh, I can do the thing that these 3 or 4 other platforms can do on one platform like Gladly. Well, there's not only value in sort of spending fewer dollars across fewer vendors, but there's savings in time of like managing. I don't have to manage 4 vendor relationships. I just have to manage one. Oh my God, please, yes, and thank you. Because now it's making my team members more efficient and freeing up their time to do different things. And so that's sort of the sort of consolidation play, I would say is a big one for brands to think about, especially CFOs. And then what is potentially very appealing is, if you're spending, call it hundreds of dollars per person per month to use a software platform like a customer service platform. Okay, great. That costs me sort of, whatever it is, a couple $100 a month per person. But the person using that software is actually an agent that might cost anywhere from, $4,000 a month to pay that person's comp. And maybe if it's in the Philippines, it's, I don't know, $2,000 or $2,500 or something like that, but a meaningful amount, right? Upwards of 25 to 40 times more than just the software might cost. And so the idea of being able to scale your business without having necessarily to throw people at that is really appealing to CFOs. So that's another common one. And then there's a bunch of other operational metrics, Blake, of course, around like, how many, not just how many tickets. So other platforms measure how many tickets do you solve. But by the way, if I'm emailing and calling in to a brand at the same time because I'm upset about something, that's actually 2 tickets. Whereas in Gladly, it's about measuring how many customers you help, not how many tickets you solve. So we often say things like, stop trying to resolve tickets and start helping customers. But the number of customers that you're able to help, the number of conversations that an agent is able to handle, those are the metrics that a lot of CX leaders are thinking about.
That's really interesting. I think that more leaders, more contact center leaders need to think like CFOs or storytellers to help get more buy-in for their programs and investments for their customer programs to make customers' lives easier and better. How much is Gladly looking into the future of retail and customer experience? Like the idea, like will there be malls in the future? I mean, does this type of stuff impact your business?
It definitely does. I don't know how far out into the future we necessarily think about that. I think the extent is um, how AI overlays with all of those modes of sort of relationship that a customer has with a brand. And we talk again, sort of channel is not necessarily a word that a consumer cares about, but it's certainly one that brands should think about, that retail and commerce brands should think about, because those are the things that they need to measure. Those are the things that they need to manage, right? How is my physical retail channel, how against my email channel, against my text message, against my chat, against my social, against my voice channel, right? There's no shortage of channels. And so the future of retail connects to, just like we were talking about, a conversation mix between sort of human led and AI led. Brands think about channel mixes all the time because channels are easier or harder to manage, to operate, to staff. And so one of the things that you get potentially from AI is that it might be easier necessarily right now to have AI give value in a chat-based conversation, which is synchronous, right? It's real time, not like an email, which sort of is spread over a longer period of time, so you can sort of converse more seamlessly, get
Mm-hmm.
more information. But it doesn't have the additional lens of sort of voice, right? If you're actually interacting with the voice AI, think about all the time and energy and effort that, if you have like a Alexa, like a Amazon Alexa at home, or you have like a Google Home, that thing is talking to you, like the voice, the tone. What is sort of the brand voice and tone? You can do those sorts of things, sure, but it just adds another layer of complexity and maybe cost as well. So when we think about the future of retail, we think about things like, what is the channel mix going to look like? Like, for what types of businesses, for what types of product SKUs, is this a high consideration thing? Are you going to try it on in the store, or do you need to see and measure how the furniture or appliance fits into your house? Like, what's the in-person shopping experience versus the digital shopping experience? And yeah, we sort of asked ourselves those questions, but the sort of AI versus human blend of conversations, regardless of channel, is what's occupying a lot of our minds right now.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I just saw a graph yesterday of like the younger generations. Actually, 25 to 40-year-olds are using every channel. They're totally omni-channel. So, I
Yeah,
mean, maybe Gen Z wants more just digital, but I mean, millennials are using every channel. So you have to be good on every channel. So that's a whole new challenge, is more channels and the pressure and expectation. You've got to be really high performing in every single one.
it
So,
changes from
any
generation to
closing
generation, definitely. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I expect I'm millennial, but I expect them to. Unfortunately, we have very low expectations for many brands, but the brands you work with, they're good names. So like Nordstrom and Warby Parker, like when I shop there, I know that I'm going to have a good experience and it's going to be easy and seamless. If only everyone would rise to the occasion. That's really the idea. For the last question before we do the get to know you or wrap up round, any closing thoughts on what our listeners and viewers should be looking at as far as AI for 2024? Is there something they're missing that you really want people to be paying attention to?
It's going to be that shift from, you're going to start to see a lot more emerge in market in that shift from scripted AI or scripted automation to generative. And you'll see that actually manifest more in customers' interactions with brands. Now, you might see it more in some channels than in others. As I mentioned, it's easier to do it in like a sort of a real-time chat interface than maybe an email, which is, again, sort of more asynchronous. Voice, obviously, there's companies out there doing like voice AI. You might see that, but in particular, I think the lines between am I talking to a human? Yeah, it's pretty clear I'm talking to a chatbot. I think they're going to get fuzzier, and some brands
Mhm.
are very very forward thinking about that, and some are a little bit more reserved, which is fine. They have maybe a little bit more to lose if they're a longer standing brand with higher revenue numbers. But that's definitely something you're gonna see a lot of, and it's here, it's coming, right? And I think the what's hard for people, it's hard for me even, I work in technology, to wrap my head around is the pace at which this technology is developing, but also will come to market because it's connected to this change of brands, any businesses, not just B2C brands, but all businesses feeling like they need to do more with less, right? In some cases that means reducing costs. In all cases that means growing revenue without growing costs. And so that trend is not going away. And you combine that with AI, it creates this sort of interesting balance of like needing to like retention, I should say, achieving efficiency and elevating customer experience and not sacrificing one for the other. That I think is the trend to watch out for in 2024 is how brands are navigating that tension.
Mhm, mhm, yeah. So you wanna be forward thinking, but you also don't wanna deliver a broken experience, but we have to embrace the future or else we risk getting stuck in the past.
There will be definitely some companies left behind, for better or worse. Just it
Mhm,
always happens.
mhm, yeah. Jason, let's wrap by getting to know you a little bit better to do rapid fire. Are you game for some questions?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. First question, Jason, what's the most important part of your morning routine?
So I have a 85-pound Saint Berdoodle. She's a Saint Bernard Standard Poodle. She's 7, and her name's Luna, and I love her. So I walk her hopefully up to like 2 miles. It's not always that long, but every morning, give her a walk. That's a critical part of the routine. She knows it.
That's awesome. That's a big walk. What are you currently streaming right now? What show?
Suits. I'm on like season, I
Yeah.
think it's 5 or 6 of Suits. I am shocked that I didn't know about this whenever it came out, which is like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, but I'm a little bit addicted to that one.
Awesome. Okay. What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
Huh. My favorite leadership book or resource. There's a book by Patrick Lencioni called The Advantage, and I sort of go back to this all the time. I'm sort of been around long enough where I'm aware of, familiar with so many like business frameworks, marketing frameworks. I was engineer turned product manager turned marketer over the span of my career, and so just been exposed to lots of frameworks, and I have the benefit of being able to apply many of those in my job. But this one is about teams, like the how to optimally help leadership teams work together, and that I think is something that's oftentimes overlooked. And so I'm a big believer in making sure that teams are able to seamlessly work together, because it's so hard to do big audacious things, and if people are sort of assuming different things, acting in different ways, even if it's sort of subtly misaligned, sort of efficiency loss there is really felt. And so The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni is a great book.
Okay. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness, some sort of trip to a new place with my family. I've been married for a little over 15 years. Our kids are 14 and 11, 14-year-old son, 11-year-old daughter. Just love traveling the world with them. And so whether it's sort of some adventuring in a city or off on a beach somewhere, just that is a very happy place for me.
Can I ask how old were they when you started traveling with them?
The sort of local-ish travel was sort of young. I mean, we were lucky enough to be able to like go to Hawaii when my kids were, I don't know, sub 2, which is still sort of a big flight, but didn't really start taking them to places like Europe until they were, call it, north of 10. So I think that was sort of our when we realized that they would probably start to appreciate it a lot more than they would have if they were, 5, 6, 7 or something like that.
All right. And if you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
I think I'd like to have lunch with Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay. And if you had to describe your life in one quick motto, what would that be?
Blake, I wish I had gotten some warning about these. I could have thought about it. My life in one quick motto.
It could just be a
Um,
few words or
oh my God, that one that's your biggest curveball so far. A motto: never give up.
perfect. I like that one. Well, Jason, thank you so much. It's so nice to see you again. I really appreciate you being here. If people want to find out more about Gladly or connect with you, how can they do that?
So I'll just say Gladly. Gladly's website is gladly.com, Gladly.com. You can learn a lot more there. What I'll also say is Gladly every year. So Gladly's built a pretty big community of CX, like I mentioned, sort of leaders, practitioners, enthusiasts. Every year we have a big event called Gladly Connect Live. The name of our community is Gladly Connect. Gladly Connect Live is this big community and customer event that we have every year. This year it's going to be in March in Scottsdale, Arizona. Gladly Connect Live. Everybody's invited to that, and you'll be especially interested if you're again sort of orbit retail or B2C commerce. We'll be talking about AI. We're going to put a bunch of our customers and friends on stage. Blake, this is where we met you last year, so you know a little bit about this. But leaders from brands like Nordstrom, leaders from brands like Crate and Barrel, REI, Warby Parker, Ulta Beauty, right? Sort of a lot of our sort of world's most loved brands that are our customers and friends. So that this is like an epic event. That's what I would say is the best way to come learn more
Awesome.
about Gladly.
Well, Jason, thank you for being here. Everybody, you have been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media, including LinkedIn, Instagram, and X.